The thing I really want to point out in this video is now I've showed you how to structure things using tables, and so here we've structured stuff inside a table, and really like this show the grid lines thing, but I'm just turning that back on so that you can see here this is not a table, right? These are actually columns, and if we turn on our show the non-printing formatting character deal thing, right, we can see that we actually have section breaks right here, which then turns this into a column. And so here I'm using 2 columns, and then over on my computer CV, I'm using 3 columns. And I have these just with shorter kind of slugs, and these have a little bit longer content. But I just want you to see how to sort of create, different bullet points, columns, things like that to arrange content. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. And you can see I use pretty much bullet points and columns or tables throughout my entire CV. Here I've got a little bit of a combination of bullets and CVs. Right? So the other thing I want to point out before I get into doing the columns is I just want to show you here the use of italicization, right? And the way I've used text to sort of offset different areas of my resume. So here I've got some bold. Here I've got some here I've got some larger text. Like if we go and we look at the font, this is Times New Roman 12, and it's not italicized. And then here I have Times New Roman 11. And it is italicized. And so this really sort of breaks up the different areas in here because this is a little bit larger, it's not italicized, a little bit larger, not italicized, a little bit larger, not italicized. So that kind of naturally gives your eye a sense of segregation. And here's a new chunk of content. And then here's the less important content. It's a little bit smaller and it's italicized. And here's a little bit less important, it's a little bit smaller, and here's a little bit less important, right? So the order of importance here would be, this would be the most important, this would be the second important, right? And this is the most important because it's larger, it's size 12. This is the second important because it's 11 and italicized. Your eye goes to that because it's different, and these are things I really want to stand out, right? You know, some of my highest honors. And then here is the third level of importance right here, which is the smaller text, not italicized. And so I think that's really important for you to kind of just like see how that works in terms of dividing up the area and providing white space, but having everything still at the same time packed pretty tightly together. So now how do we work with columns? So I come in here and I have my bullets, right? And I could just select all this stuff, and you can see here's where the section begins and here's where it ends. And so I'm going to select all of this stuff in here. And then when we worked with columns, do you remember where we found it? Let's say you didn't remember where we found it. I'm going to make this a little bit larger and just see, if you want to pause the video, right, where, I just kind of hit it. Where would you go? It's right here, right? And so what if it's 1 column? So there's 1 column. Well, what will that look like as 3 columns? Here's 3 columns, right? And so that's it. That's how you go in and you make your columns. And if you remember, we had a little divider, so I might come down here and play with that and say, well, what happens if I throw in a little line in between? How does that look? And then I could turn off my non-printing, and I could take a look at that with a line, and quite frankly, I think that looks horrible, so I could hit undo. Well, let's just take a moment to sort of build everything up from the very beginning, where we create a heading, we create some content, we make it bullets, and we make it a couple of columns, and I will do that for you in the next video.